Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I just wanted to jump on for a minute and talk to you about something actually Terry and I were talking about this morning. And I'm traveling with Amir right now. We're up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Looking forward to a midweek service tomorrow night, and then off to Toronto, where we'll be doing an all-day conference on the Book of Daniel on Saturday, and then headed home on Sunday. But there's a lot, when I travel with Amir, he always mentions that he calls the media nights. And, there's a lot of stuff floating around out there about what's happening in Gaza. That's simply misinformation. And, it's true about pretty much everything these days. But I just wanted to offer two things: one, a word of encouragement, and also a word of caution about, basically formulating our opinions about something that is so volatile that's going on, and getting our information from liberal media sources or people who are posting on social media platforms, and really not establishing what is true. There's been a couple times where I wound up, with something that I had to go back and retract because the multiple sources that I always check were all telling the same, um, as Hillary Clinton calls them, misrememberings. And so I just want to talk about this for a moment and address some things specifically, and pray that it's an encouragement to you and just a reminder, about the age that we live in. And it's sadly, the Walter Cronkites and the Jerry Dumfies out here on the West Coast aren't with us anymore. We've got propaganda machines these days that are promoting agendas, and facts really aren't relevant anymore. It's just about pushing a narrative that's consistent with your whatever cultural position you may take. But I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. One, we're seeing this picture float around of this little boy, and of course that tugs on our heartstrings. This little guy's 5 years old. He has a genetic disorder, and he's being used for the propaganda against Israel about this boy. It looks like he does because he's starving to death because Israel's blocking all humanitarian aid. And the real story is this boy has a disease. He is currently in a hospital in Italy getting treatment, and yet this picture has been broadcast all over the world time and again about this being the end result of the starvation tactics that Israel is now employing. And therefore, I think we need to talk a little bit about what's really happening, because there is a few food shortage, and we don't want to swing the pendulum too far the other way and act like there's not issues there in the Gaza Strip outside of the primary ones regarding the murder of Israeli citizens back on October 7th and what's been going on since then. But this is an interesting website. It's the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, and they have on their uh, page an article that is headlined that the UN refuses to cooperatively distribute aid as reported hunger grows in Gaza. Now, again, not denying that there's not a hunger problem, and all the other things that we know come about from times like this. But the reality is that there's a story behind this headline that's not being reported by the liberal media. And here's the body of the story, and you're going to have to pardon me a minute. I can't read it if I can't see it. And the UN has rejected offers by the US and Israeli backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or the GHF, which is funded by the Trump administration, by the way, uh, because they don't want the US and Israel getting credit, in essence, is the reason for it. And where they say, we've been sounding the alarm for weeks on the need for more aid in Gaza, while we've seen aid by the UN and other organizations being piled near the borders but not being delivered. GHF Interim Director John Ackery said UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric rejected the offer on July 23rd, accusing the GAF of setting up operations that increase the risk of people being shot at or trampled while trying to get food. Well, who's shooting at them? Well, the answer is Hamas. Hamas has been shooting at civilians, shooting them in the foot or just downright murdering them for trying to get a hold of the food that's been donated by countries around the world. And this is a fact. This isn't, some made up story trying to, basically negate some of the information that's floating around out there. There's video. I've seen video of this happening where poor a person who's just hungry, wants to feed himself or family, and is trying to get food off one of the humanitarian aid trucks, and Hamas members shoot them in the foot, and they lie there screaming or in the knee, or they just shoot them and kill them. So this article recognizes that, you know, there are these kind of things happening, and it goes on to talk about hundreds of truckloads of undelivered aid. And the IDF hosted dozens of international journalists in the Karim Shalom crossing on July 24th, just a few days ago, presenting what it said were over 800 truckloads of humanitarian aid not yet delivered by the UN. And the IDF held the event after international aid organizations accused the Israeli government of conducting a siege against the Gazan people. And the UN needs to stop pointing fingers and start doing its job, the Israeli Foreign Ministry stated. The article also says Hamas profited from the aid, and the Washington Post reported on July 21st that Hamas had profited by hiking prices on aid that the terrorist organization had commandeered and was counting on the humanitarian crisis to bring the war to an end. The article cited a Western official who emphasized that Hamas was pushing for a return to the UN based aid distribution system rather than relying on GHF because Hamas has all in the aid warehouses. On July 23rd, Hamas launched a rocket toward a GHF aid facility and has previously threatened, attacked, and murdered its workers. Now, again, there's a claim there about all this humanitarian aid that is being held up by um, the UN and their refusal to allow GHF to distribute food or to cross the border. And again, you make a claim like this, you better back it up. And here's the proof. Here's a snapshot of some of the trucks that are loaded with humanitarian aid. And there's other pictures floating around out there, but I thought this would be appropriate in light of what we just read regarding all the media nights who were allowed to come and see. And this is on the Egyptian border crossing, and all this food is supposed to be going to the citizens of Gaza. And yet, as we just read, Hamas has been commandeering it and selling it at a profit. This is donated food. There's no cost to it. And the article said they were hiking up the prices. There's no price for free food. So again, if you're going to point the finger at anybody, point the finger at Hamas because they're the ones that started all this. They're the ones that continue this, and they're the ones that are basically causing the great humanitarian crisis in Gaza at their own hands. And again, there's other footage floating around there. There's a lot of markets that are wide open, lots of fruit and vegetables available. And again, we're going to talk about this, I'm sure, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. If you're on the West Coast, Amir and I will be doing a Middle East and beyond. But I just wanted to jump on because, there's so many people out there who are presenting information as though it's factual, that is actually based on lies and misinformation. So let's be careful out there. Let's watch out who our sources are. And again, as the old saying goes, war is hell. There's just no good way to look at it. But someday, uh, those who have swords are going to beat them into plowshares because the King of Kings and Lord of Lords is going to rule from Jerusalem with a rod of iron the whole of the world, and justice will be fair, and there'll be no wars, and the Lord Himself will sit on David's throne, the throne of human government, and rule this world in righteousness. So let's be careful with what we're spreading out there and who we're listening to, and make sure that we're doing our own homework before we throw something up on social media. Well, that's it for me this week. I encourage you, hey, got a Take Five coming up on Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, talking about a hot button topic, as we often do, and that being the issue of the New Apostolic Reformation. Is this legit? Is this something the Bible has said is going to come? And I think you'll find the information helpful. So, anyway, that's it for today. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, I forgot forgot to hide the picture. But anyway, I just been talking behind that picture. But anyway, um, again, let's word to the wise. Let's just be careful out there about what we're presenting and promoting, because there's enough folks out there who couldn't care less. All they know is they hate the Jews and want to see them wiped out. So that's not the Christian position under any circumstances. We believe they have a right to the land because God gave it to them. So it doesn't mean we support everything they do. Doesn't mean everything they do is right. But it does mean they have a right to the land God gave them, and they have a right to all of it. So with that said, Lord bless you guys. And again, tune in tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific time, daylight time, for the Middle East and beyond. And Amir and I will cover a bunch of news stories based on things happening, not just in Israel, but also around the world. So as I conclude every program, we'll see you here, there, or in the air. God bless you.